Hey everyone, you've joined us on a Saturday, and I'm pulling in Allison because Allison last week, Labor Day, said, "Watch, I'm doing gardening and I should take on fascist." And I'm watching West Wing. And then today, I returned the favor because I'm actually not feeling well, and I was in bed, and I'm like, this is probably a sign I should rest. And then I was scrolling through my phone, Allison. I was telling Allison, and I saw Donald Trump again misuse pop culture and portray himself as Lieutenant Kilgore from Apocalypse Now, even though this man has never served. And he said his personal Vietnam was avoiding STDs. And he said, I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. Apocalypse Now. By the way, that character was a flaming sociopath who bombed a Vietnamese village and then afterwards wanted to surf. But I digress. And then you had Doughboy JD Vance, who's really tough, Allison. She's so tough. Oh, it's the toughest guy who said killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. And Brian Krasenstein responded to him, and he says that's also called a war crime. And then J.D. Vance, just great evidence for future, inshallah, if we ever have trials, as we should, said, I don't give a shit what you call it. As that's happening, riot police, ICE is getting riot gear ready for Chicago. As that's happening, folks, Donald Trump is trying to distract from the fact that the job numbers came out yesterday and they're terrible. Some leading economists are already saying we're in a recession. And he's also trying to distract from Thursday night's Project Veritas scoop. Can't believe I'm saying it, but because Allison, I'm in the seventh circle of hell. James O'Keefe, you know, that flaming lefty liberal MSNBC reporter, James O'Keefe of Project Veritas, he released a video showing, for those who don't know, let me just set this up and I'm going to give it to Allison because these people are so incompetent. An acting Justice Department official went on a hinge date. It wasn't actually a hinge date, it was a sting operation. The lady is an employee of Project Veritas. She asked him about the Epstein files, and as one does on what he thought was a random hinge date, he openly admitted on the camera he had no idea she was wearing that they have the files. They could release them, but they're waiting to release them because they're going to redact the names of all the Republicans and conservatives and promote the names of the liberals. So the next day, Friday morning, I think Donald Trump woke up from his stupor, drank some Diet Coke, was shown Allison this Project Veritas video, and he goes on this lengthy Truth Social rant where it's all projection and he calls it a hoax. Well, folks, that was some big news. Last night, if you went to sleep, you might have missed Speaker of the House, super Christian, Christian nationalist Mike Johnson, dropping a truth bomb, allegedly, Allison, that wait. Donald Trump, who partied with Jeffrey Epstein, and Donald Trump, who's lying about the Epstein files, and Donald Trump, who's been engaging in a cover up, I think we have to use that word, about the Epstein scandal, who just gave a sweetheart deal to Ghislaine Maxwell to go to a minimum security camp. Guess what, Allison? He's actually an FBI informant. He was working for the FBI. He was working, in fact, for the deep state, as Allison tweeted, and I retweeted it. That means then that if Mike Johnson's correct and Donald Trump was working as an FBI informant to bring down Epstein, he was working for Robert Mueller. And as that's happening to distract, it's a distraction. And what I mean by that, it's all part of the authoritarian playbook, right? Today, now we have the Department of Defense becoming the Department of War, and war is being declared against Chicago as we're now declaring war against Venezuela, unilaterally killing anyone we deem to be drug cartels, even if they might be migrants. And we're going to connect all the dots. I had to just set the stage for people who aren't masochists like me and Allison and haven't followed the news for the past day. Allison, spinning the wheel of the apocalypse. Where do you want to land? I yield the floor to you.
First of all, feel better, my friend. I sit here and
Try.
I tell you to get some rest as we're working on a Saturday, our one day off. I have another dot to connect, a couple more dots to connect for you. Trump said that the people on the boat that Kegsef blew up were narco-terrorist members of Tren de Aragua. Now, if you'll recall, Donald Trump, back in March, tried to use the Alien Enemies Act as justification for rounding up anyone who's brown and has a tattoo and sending them to sea coat torture prison, and then eventually trading them to Venezuela for 10 American citizens, one of whom is a triple murderer and is walking around in Orlando. So we just recently had the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, very conservative Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Do you remember when the Supreme Court was like, tell you what, Fifth Circuit, you figure out whether the Alien Enemies Act is lawful, and you let us know. And the Fifth Circuit, there was a judge named Judd Ho, on that circuit who's like, I'm going to do this, but I don't have to like it. This court isn't a Denny's. We aren't open 24/7 for you. Like, just fucking push back. But the Fifth Circuit, that Fifth Circuit court, on a 3-judge panel, Bush appointee, Biden appointee, Trump appointee, they decided that the Alien Enemies Act is unlawful because, first of all, we're not at war.
Yep.
And only Congress can declare war. But the Alien Enemies Act allows the president to invoke the Alien Enemies Act, even if there's not a declared war. If he determines there's a predatory incursion or an invasion on U.S. territory, because he tried to tell the courts, hey, I'm using the Alien Enemies Act because all these gang members, all these Tren de Aragua gang members, that's an incursion from Venezuela. And even the conservative Fifth Circuit is like, no, it's not. No, it's not. So
In July, Stephen Miller, and we've been trying to tell people this and warn people this. Stephen Miller used the word invasion.
Yes, or predatory incursion. So I think what he's trying to do is not only provoke a war,
Yep,
with Venezuela, and for other reasons, and I'll get to that in a second, but also to justify his utilization of the Alien Enemies Act. So he just got, also this week, he just got the approval to indefinitely detain migrants because you have to let them out at a certain point, and give them bail hearings. But he got that revoked so that he can make money off of everybody that he interns in a concentration camp. And he's now attacked this boat of narco-terrorists from Tren de Aragua, probably as a pretext to say that there's now a predatory incursion on the United States sanctioned by the government of Venezuela. And here we are. So either that or he's doing that. But also, if we're in a declared war, do you remember what he said to Zelensky? 3.5 years. If there's a war, you don't have elections. That's interesting. And it spun up enough experts for even folks like Joyce Vance to write a piece saying, hey, it is illegal. I think Title 18 U.S. Code 542 or something, to station troops at polling places. So whether he wants to use this war to invoke the Insurrection Act so he doesn't have to follow the posse comitatus rule, to deploy troops to cities and use them as law enforcement, or whether he wants to declare war to grab onto emergency powers, or declare a war just to put troops at polling stations, because there are exceptions to that law that says you can't put troops at polling stations, to interfere in the midterms, for example, doing these trial runs to get people used to there being, military on our streets and invading us, and to post up these guys at polling places to subvert the vote, actual physical voter suppression at the polls to scare people away from voting. So all these things link up, right? And it's all a Stephen Miller, Russ Vought joint. Stephen Miller likes the Insurrection Act. He likes the Alien Enemies Act. And now we've got a judge on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals who likes to tell the courts to fuck off. And his name is Emile Bovee. He's been working at the Department of Justice for the last month or so, even though he's been nominated to be a judge, which is a total batshit conflict of interest. And if I were anyone being brought up on charges in the Third Circuit, I would be filing a motion to dismiss, saying or he needs to at least recuse if my case gets up to him on appeal, because he's been working with this White House to go after people. So it's all massive authoritarian. Somebody wrote a piece about a prelude to authoritarianism. I'm like, no, this is the
No.
prelude was last year. This is it. This is it. And in that fucking meme where he says we're going to invade Chicago, we'll tell you why it's the Department of War, which is going to cost billions and billions of dollars to change the name of, by the way, money that could be spent to build units for unhoused veterans or any number of things. Put our Medicaid back together, save Social Security, anything. We certainly have the money, I guess, to change the name of the Department of Defense to the War Department from a guy who wants the Nobel Peace Prize. And I think in that meme, wasn't he wearing a Confederate hat in the
Uh,
Vietnam War?
I with the two swords, right? Yeah, that was the. No, I don't think that's Confederate though. I don't think it's Confederate. I don't know. Someone, because Tammy Duckworth actually, who did serve, mentioned what he's wearing. Take off the cavalry hat, you draft dodger. You didn't earn the right to wear it. Stolen valor at its worst. Her response to the AI generated image of Donald Trump as Lieutenant Kilgore from the movie Apocalypse Now.
Got it. Got it. So anyway, that's just a not only an impeachable offense, but a batshit crazy 25th Amendment offense. And for I remember there being articles last year when Kamala Harris said that Donald Trump would send U.S. troops against citizens of this country, who he calls the enemy from within, and everyone was like, "What a liar! Oh, she's full of shit. She's crazy. Get her an the tinfoil hat, or and we were like, nobody said that, and here we are, and here
Oh,
we
well,
are."
I mean, not just her. Not this. Look, Elsa, this is the world's worst "I told you so" tour. I get no joy from this. Anyone who's been watching, I think you or me, independently or together, my co-host Danielle, we've been saying this for a while, and specifically October. In October, right before the elections, Donald Trump openly quoted Hitler, and I've been using this at every opportunity I can get to try to tell people take him literally and seriously. He is telling you the plan. Donald Trump quoted Hitler, calling Americans, enemies from within. And he said that as president, he will send the National Guard and the military against the enemy from within, the first president to ever do so. Now, you fast forward less than a year later. Are we surprised that same man who said that he wants to terminate the Constitution, be a dictator for a day, the same man who incited a violent insurrection, the same man who pardoned all those insurrectionists, including the violent ones who came there with violent intent and, like you mentioned, have violent records, the same man who used to joke before his election that you don't vote for me once, you don't have to vote again, and now is openly showing off his 2028 merchandise to foreign leaders, and then hypothesized like O.J. Simpson, if I did it, well, if I stayed, this is the way you could do it. J.D. Vance could win, and then then he could step down and give it to me. Um, I've been saying cliff notes to what how Allison connected, and we're going to keep connecting the dots. He's not going to leave. And the people who still think the institutions will be the guardrails that save us, the people who still say and said to me and to Kamala Harris and to you and the others, this can't happen in America. You're crazy. You're a crank. You're suffering from TDS. He won't do that. He's wild, but he's not that wild. Look at the evidence of your eyes and your ears,
I
folks.
got people calling me crazy for saying that he's going to change the name of the Department of Defense, saying he can't though. That's illegal.
That was saying everything is so. I had Jamie Raskin on a couple of days ago. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
And I said, it was I like him, but it was disappointing. I pushed him. I know I pushed him, and he was stuck. He was giving political answers, but I had to push him. I had to ask him these questions, and I was like, okay, well, talking about this and anticipating what's got to happen. I'm like, if you have the military, Allison, and ICE, and the law enforcement now weaponized to terrorize the American people, who watches the Watchmen? How do average, ordinary Jose's and Janes now take on law enforcement with that now has the badge and the gun and is being used as the personal Gestapo of the president? You know what happens in fascist regimes. And he said he gave the answer as a constitutional law school. Well, he can't do that. And I said, he could do whatever the F he wants. Fascists do whatever the F they want. He can't do any of this stuff, but no one's stopping him, right? So my Cliff Notes version of this, folks, is, and my prediction, and I hope I am proven wrong, Allison, is the following. What I've been saying for 6 months, well, 7 months now. Donald Trump, his poll numbers will go low. They're low. He's going to F up the economy. Look at the numbers yesterday. He effed up the economy. As he gets sicker, he's getting sicker, folks. He's not well. As the scandals ramp up, especially the Epstein scandal, his Achilles cankles, what he will do is if it seems like he's going to lose, he will declare, I said this with Lev, he's going to talk about electoral reform. A week later, he said electoral reform. The electoral reform will be gerrymandering, suppression of voter rights. That's also happening, right? The second thing he will do, and what I would do if I were Donald Trump and had Stephen Miller and Russell Vaught and a compliant media and I had the House and I had reeks like Mike Johnson, is I would say, I, as the commander in chief, have been entrusted to protect the United States of America. We're currently under invasion. And I would say Tren de Aragua, drug dealers, Antifa, whatever. And as such, I have to declare martial law until we can get this country safe. But don't you worry, Allison. After everything is safe and after I've gone the invaders and after this peace and security, then we will have elections. And I think what we're seeing now, like you said, I'm so glad you connected it, is this Department of War. It's no longer Department of Defense, Department of War. So much for America first. So much for the Nobel Peace Prize. This bullshit. Let's call it out for the bullshit. Trump unilaterally, without due process, blowing up a boat, accusing the people without any evidence of being a low-level drug offenders in international waters, right? And then saying, I have the right to do it. And then J.D. Vance saying, I don't care if it's a war crime. What actually says that words today to Brian Krasenstein, and thank you for the evidence for, inshallah, when you get tried for war crimes, killing citizens of another nation or civilians without any due process is called a war crime. That's what Brian said to J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance said, I don't give a shit what you call it. What they're going to do, as Allison said, is these people are bringing crime. They're bringing crime through illegal immigration. This is why we have Stephen Miller's words, folks, exactly what Allison said. He has openly said invasion. When the Supreme Court said there's no you can't invoke the Alien Enemies Act, Stephen Miller came out and said, we're being invaded. Of course I can.
That was part of the campaign, all of Trump's campaign for all of 2024. We have to stop the invasion at the border. We have to stop the invasion at the border. So, I mean, that's always kind of been the plan. It's all, Project 2025 is pretty clear. A couple of folks were asking some questions. Thank you, by the way, everybody, for being with us on a Saturday. Welcome, fellow masochists. How do you do, fellow masochists, with my stuff?
How you doing?
Well, somebody said, why is Raskin skirting questions? The only thing I can think of is that there are multiple ways to message to multiple groups of voters, right? And trying to get them all packed into one message, I think, is weird. I think people should have a multi-message platform. You should have a message for the people who are super plugged in about authoritarianism and democracy. You should have a message to the people who vote on the economy only, and talk about the upcoming recession and the tariffs and things like that. You can have, and the thing that blows me away about the Mamdani campaign, he just put out a brilliant ad saying, I stop sending me money. I have the maximum amount of money now that I can spend. So what I need is your time. And he, a lot of folks are like, well, I don't think that free bus stuff and rent freeze will work in Atlanta, for example. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not telling you to take his message. I'm telling you to copy the way he got his message.
That's
by
right.
Going door to door, talking to voters, finding out what the people and the constituents need, and then forming your message around what they need. And if 90% of the people you talk to have economic concerns more than, autocracy concerns, you message on that. So maybe that's why Raskin is, kind of sticking to one.
Or Allison, maybe the reason why Mamdani is winning, to your point, I think it's a great test case, and I'm personally willing to call out Democratic failures, and I also give credit where credit's due, is what Mamdani is revealing, and what AOC is revealing, and Bernie's revealing, and Graham Planter is revealing, and Captain Blah, who's running in Illinois, and Kat, who's running in Illinois, right? All these people are revealing
Well, they're
what you just said.
connecting the oligarchy and the ruling class and the wealth gap to the economy and jobs and the democracy. So you just...
And it's winning over independents, Trump voters, people who are, literally, folks, people who voted for Trump are now supporting Mamdani. People who voted for Trump in 2024 also voted for AOC. People who voted for Trump also would have gone for Bernie, because you can't win over everyone, as Allison is saying. But I still say there's two Achilles cankles of Donald Trump, two Achilles heels. And I think it's revealed and also reveals the fissures. And we'll go back to Trump, but we need a robust opposition. Right now, folks in DC, check it out. People are out in DC right now. DC is 20 minutes away from me. It's not being covered in mainstream media. People are out. If Donald Trump's crackdown and unleashing of the National Guard was so popular, why would 80% of DC be against it? And right now, why would Washington, DC right now? Look at the people, massive crowds, right? So what is mobilizing the people? The economy, right? People say it's the economy, stupid. Okay, he's underwater on the economy. The job numbers yesterday came out, and yes, a lot of this is distraction. It's a distraction meaning it's distraction from the two scandals, the economy and Epstein, but it's also in furtherance of the end goal that me and Allison always talk about, which is authoritarianism. So what's the message that Mamdani has? Just take away, the free buses, democratic socialists. Just take it away. Why is he winning over so many people? Allison, I think New York City should be affordable. I think the average Jose should be able to, pay their rent. I think, people should be able to have free buses. I don't believe we should have billionaires, but what Mamdani said is, if billionaires exist, I'll work with them. I think a nurse should not be paying more in taxes than the richest 1%. That message of fighting the oligarchy, the bro-oligarchy, the 99% versus the 1%, the majority versus the elitists, it is what is winning. And the reason, Allison, why I think the Democrats are stuck right now because there's a failure of leadership, a civil war, identity crisis, is when you have the traditional leadership of Schumer and Jeffries, they're unwilling to stop sucking at the teat of corporate money. They just can't, which is why they unleashed Clinton against them, Clyburn, New York Times, Wall Street. And I think, Allison, I was talking to Mehdi about this, what Mamdani represents.
It's
AOC,
terrifying to let go of that in the age of
that's what I'm
Citizens
saying.
United. It's terrifying to let go of that and trust that the voters will make up the small donors will make up the difference. But here we have Mamdani saying, "Don't send me any more money. I can't take any more money," and that should be a signal. It's like when we talk about the media,
Signal.
like when we talk about the corporate media versus independent media and me having meetings with people at CNN and they're like, well, we can't really go that route because there's no money in it. I'm like, yes, there is. There's tons of money in it and you're failing. And I have more viewers than you on some of these shows. So you can get the eyes if you do the right thing, and you can get the small dollar donations if you do the right thing. And I do want to draw a pretty distinct line because people seem to be conflating the DNC with Schumer and Jeffries, for example. I am part of several DNC, I'm a DNC content creator. I work with the DNC. I'm part of several DNC talking points, emails that I get, and they love Mamdani. The DNC loves Mamdani. Okay. They love AOC. They love the Epstein files. They don't love the Epstein files, but they, love going after people for the Epstein files. They love Prop 50. They love what Gavin Newsom is doing. They don't endorse candidates because of what happened in 2016. They're now like, we stay out of the primaries. Y'all pick your candidate and then we'll go in all behind them. But they have everything they share with me to share with the public and to, for the messaging from the DNC is that Mamdani is awesome. And that's just one of multiple things that they send. That is very different. The DNC is not our Democratic elected leadership. It's not Jeffries. It's not Schumer. They are doing their own thing. If that, I just want to kind of draw that differentiation. And then someone else asked, I wanted to get to somebody else's question. Well, how do we stop this? Tell us what to do. What do we do? And when we think about everything that's going, I can hear somebody in the background.
That's my wife. I'm sorry. Hold on. My bad.
But if you think about trying to defeat everything totally as a whole, all the authoritarian stuff, if you think about trying to defeat Donald Trump and everything that he's doing to the economy, to the military, to all of our institutions and organizations and all the executive orders and kicking trans people out of the military. You think of the whole picture, the whole big giant dictator authoritarian bullshit picture. That is really overwhelming. You cannot just say, what do I do today to dismantle that entire thing? And I always compare it to an episode of the show Hoarders, when they walk into the house and they look around and they're like, Jesus fuck, and then just turn around and walk out, right? But what you do is you go back into one room, into a corner of one room, and you start in a corner of one room, just doing small stuff, like my FOIA requests and suing the DOJ, for example, or phone banking for Prop 50 in California. You could sign up to do that through CADEMS, CADEMS, the California Democratic Party, and mobilize us. There are tons of blogs that have tiny little things that you can do to help, like Chop Wood, Carry Water, right? Just Craven. Every day on the Daily Beans, we have a good trouble segment where, we have like a link to go to do public comments on stopping Trump from taking away mifepristone at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Just small things. So if you think about it that way, instead of, oh my God, how do I stop authoritarianism? You think of what small, tiny thing can I do today in that effort? And I got to tell you, and I'm sure, folks who are listening to this, if you've done anything like that, it really makes a difference in how you feel, right? Like it, and it gives you more energy to do more. Does that make sense? Anyway, that was those. I just wanted to address that question. There's something small you can do. It's just, some days just existing for certain marginalized groups of people is an act of resistance. So I just wanted to say that.
Well, no, I appreciate that. And look, there's the weekly overpass. Someone just said the weekly overpass movement. I interviewed those guys last week. They have a do-it-yourself toolkit. It's now in 46 states. It's like a joyful warriors. They stand over overpasses and they share a one message across 46 states. It could be 15, inshallah, but it went to 46, and it's growing right now in Washington D.C. Massive movement right now in DC. I wish it was covered more. All these people spontaneously going out. Death by 1,000 cuts, right? Everyone, I mentioned this before, and going to Allison's point, right? It seems so overwhelming. And authoritarians want you to be overwhelmed, exhausted, feeling hopeless that you can never win, so might as well just resist. Like all those pieces of shit, I rarely swear, those chutias, those tech CEOs Thursday night who sat there and groveled, and Mark Zuckerberg, who was caught on the hot mic. I don't know if you heard that, Allison, when Donald Trump said, Mark is going to invest money. How much money? Mr. President, I think we're going to invest 600 billion. Is that the number you like, Mr. President? Was that number good? I wasn't prepared. Okay, thank you. Instead of bending the knee like these pieces of shit, chutias, haramzadas, that's some Punjabi swear words in there as well. Forgive me, I rarely swear because I got kids. But look at what's happening in DC, folks. So you can't take out fascism with a haymaker, right? And I think what Allison and others are saying, I think, we'll give more examples. Death by 1,000 cuts. Death by 1,000 cuts. Cut, 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 cut. Because these people are incompetent, and we'll discuss their incompetence in a second. America is a large country. I've traveled across America. It's big. There's 340 million people. It's very diverse. So we're not underestimating the damage that they have already done, because they've already done generational damage, and the damage that they will do. If you literally just look at RFK, that I talked to an infectious disease expert yesterday, I'm going to have it up today. I mean, brilliant man, Allison, and he's like, we're effed. We're effed for a generation, the damage that's already been done. However, you can either give up or you could do something. And so everyone has their role to play. It's like the series Andor. If you watch the Star Wars series Andor, you don't have to be a Star Wars fan. The reason why it resonates is because it's about how do average Jose's and Janes resist authoritarianism. No one in that series has a lightsaber. No one has special powers. No one uses the Force. They're just average people, but everyone has a role to play. And those people combine their powers, and without their efforts, Luke Skywalker cannot enter the Death Star and friggin' blow it up. Okay, but I digress. Sorry for me being nerdy. If I could step back for a second, though, Allison, and talk about the Democratic leadership. I'm talking about the leadership now. It's important. Not all Democrats. I had a conversation yesterday, Allison, with Stuart Stevens, former.
But yeah, no, agreed. And I think it's really important that when you want to call out Democrats, call them out specifically. Don't group all Democrats together in this awful thing, because the guy running against Susan Collins is a Democrat. AOC is a Democrat. Mamdani is a Democrat. Like, it's a big damn party, and I hate to see folks trash the entirety of it. Now, I mean, there are folks who just hate both parties and think they're both the same. I can't talk those folks out of that. But yeah, I love it when we just specifically give constructive feedback about specific people, particularly in leadership. Anyway, go ahead.
No, that's what I wanted to say is the cliff notes of that conversation, which was really interesting because he agreed with everything I said. He's like a former Republican operative, seventh generation, I think Mississippian, and he's the one who said we don't talk about racism enough. We don't talk about how a GOP is a hateful racist party. We don't talk about the fact that the GOP and its base think we're all like evil. So we should just say "f you." We're done with this bullshit. Like, and we should have a fighter spirit, right? And I think the character. This is the two things when it comes to resistance, and I just want them to win. The only opposition party, folks, that we have is the Democratic Party. So I have to sharpen this tool that I have, and I criticize them to make them better because the moment we're in is a moment of authoritarianism.
We
That's
did
why
it
I
with
criticize.
Newsom. It worked with Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm saying is the two things that I think will work, Allison, and what we have to keep pushing them on when it comes to character. No more civility. These people think we are. I'm not making this up. They think we are sex trafficking, devil worshiping pedophiles. J.D. Vance wrote a foreword to a book that called us, wait for it, unhuman. They think we're invaders. Stop trying to win over Chet. Chet is done. Chet wants to kill you. Win over the base and the disaffected. And the base wants a fighter. Act like a fighter, talk like a fighter. Number two, the message. I think the winning message, Allison, that could group a whole bunch of people together is fight the oligarchy, fight the elites, the 99% versus the 1%, us against the billionaires, us against this psychotic South African doughboy, Elon Musk, us against this complete freak, Peter Thiel, us against Donald Trump, who just made $5 billion for his corrupt Tweedledee, Tweedledum sons with his crypto grift. Um, I think that's a winning message. Fighter spirit, willing to think outside the box, saying F you, put it on the brass knuckles. And I also think, Allison, I want your take on this. And well, actually, you're the one who put the seed in my head. You and Danielle. Shut this shit down. Shut it down.
Yeah.
Tell us what you, because you said it. Can you expand on that? Because
Yeah.
you got it, you got that earworm in my head.
The government runs out of money at the end of this month because a continuing resolution was passed earlier this year with the help of Chuck Schumer and a handful of other Democrats. And I don't think that, and within that, it was a horrible continuing resolution. It defunded DC by $1.1 billion, including schools and law enforcement and all sorts of stuff. And the Democrats in the Senate were like, "Don't worry, we'll pass a separate bill and fund DC," which they did. But then Mike Johnson wouldn't take it up in the House. So we never, the Muriel Bowser is left without $1.1 billion and has to try to compensate for that. So at the end of this month, we run out of money, and I say we make demands. And, not a whole ton, just like stop being a dictatorship, right? Like put U.S. aid back, put PEPFAR back, fund the government, the stuff that the Congress voted to appropriate. You have to send all that money out. Because that's Congress, that's power of the purse. It's a separation of powers issue. You don't have the power to not do it. Release the Epstein files, maybe throw that in there, see if you can toss that amendment in there. Things like that, major stuff. And if they don't, do not fund this government. This government is broken. Don't worry, Republicans will pass stuff to be able to pay for critical what are those called? The critical jobs. And so
But
that'll be funded. The military will be paid. They'll be funded, stuff they consider critical. That always happens, even in a shutdown. Even the last time the Republicans shut the government down, last two times, in recent memory. But the rest of it, don't fund the government. The Republicans control all three branches. The House, the Senate, and they do control the judiciary too at the Supreme Court, but
they
that's
do. And media. And media.
neither here nor yeah. All four, all four estates. So this is on them, and if they refuse to not to simply not be authoritarian, then I'm with you. I say shut it down. And I've talked to the alts, like the alt.gov accounts. I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of people who are current and former federal employees. I'm a former federal employee. I know what it means to shut the government down. But I think we need to stand up and fight for that. Now, a lot of people don't agree with me on that, and that's fine because there are reasons to not shut the government down. That's a reasonable discussion to have. That's a reasonable argument. So you don't have to agree with me on that. But that's my personal point of view, is that we need to shut it down because it's broken. It's defunded. He's doing whatever he wants with the money. He's changing the names of shit. He's not appropriating congressional funds like he's supposed to. And everything, all that takes months and months and months, if not years, to even get to the Supreme Court. And even if they hear it, I mean, we won't have a resolution to a lot of those things in the short course.
I 100% co-sign. I think it's a smart strategic move to make. Radical times require bold, radical, ethical action. And this is a time in which we have a completely corrupt, deranged, authoritarian leader and a movement. And that's why I'm sick and tired of this bullshit both sides. There's no both sides, and F cable news and CNN for platforming Ben Shapiro and Scott Jennings. You need to shut it down. We're not going to pay for our government to be a tyrannical institution that puts its boots on our neck. You belong to us, not the other way around. You serve us, not the other way around. So if you're not going to serve us and instead you're going to use our resources and our institutions to occupy us and tyrannize us, well, then F you. We're going to shut it down. We're not going to fund you. We're not going to pay for you. And then also, secondly, we need a strike because this country worships money. This country worships capitalism. You know, in God we trust. It's on our dollar bills. The color green trumps all other colors, even the color white. And this country, even the Zuckerbergs and all the most right-wing conservatives, they love money more than anything, more than Jesus and more than God. They love that money, right? And right now, that's why you saw the McDonald's CEO come out earlier in this week and, tepidly say, yeah, so our base is skipping breakfast and they're eating at home, and that's not a good sign. That was him saying, wink, wink, wink. Oh, shit, recession's coming. Right. So they love money more than anything, folks. So economic boycotts, spending your money wisely, shutting things down. And I will say this, folks. I know it's tough, right? Right. We went through a once in a lifetime pandemic. Many of us didn't survive. Over 1 million Americans died. That was tough. But many of us had to do it to keep us alive. So this is about keeping our democracy alive, right? So remember how we had to shut everything down for the pandemic? I think if we shut everything down for a month, might be tough. We could survive. We'll make it work. We can lean on each other, right? I think it's worth it to say no. I think that's why connecting the dots, having that type of agility to think outside the box, to adopt a brawler's type of spirit, become in the trenches fighter, and then propose these bold radical moves. You plant your flag on the ground and say, these are my principles. F you. I'm going to lead. I don't care if it's politically incorrect. I don't give a shit if CNN accuses of me of not doing both sides. F you and your civility. I'm going to fight for the people and this country. I think you will rally a majority of people behind you. That's the type of fighter I want. That's the type of messaging I want. And I do think we have to keep pushing. And Allison made a really good point, folks. Let's use the Gavin Newsom example. It's a very illustrative example. Gavin Newsom, after Trump won, much like many of the Democrats and people in establishment are like, okay, oh my God, we lost by 1.4 points. What should we do? Throw the woke under the bus. Trans people, you're gross, throw you under the bus. Immigrants, will sign on to the Lake and Riley Act. What else should we do? Abandon the woke. Be tough. Okay, I'm Gavin Newsom. I'm going to host a podcast. My first two guests will be Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to agree with them. And what happened? Right wing called him a cuck. The right wing laughed at him. His own base abandoned him. All right, fast forward a couple of months. Didn't work. Donald Trump doubles down on the most populous state, my home state, California, fourth largest economy, 40 million people. Gavin Newsom said, fine, F this. Let me try a new strategy. Let me just brawl. And guess what happened? For better and for worse, because I don't want people imitating Trump, but he mocks him very effectively. Double digits skyrocket in the polls. He's number one right now, and people want a fighter. Wes Moore just came out today. People want a fighter. Pritzker came out today. People want a fighter. Go ahead, Allison.
Last thing I'll say on this point before we get out of here is talking about Wes Moore, talking about J.B. Pritzker, talking about Newsom. We need more of what we're seeing with the blue state pacts. We have a blue state vaccine compact, for example.
California, Oregon, Washington, right?
Yeah, and then a bunch of eastern states, eastern seaboard blue states. I also would like to look at soft secession. If we talk about, continuing resolution, go ahead and fund the government when the blue states don't send their federal tax dollars to your coffers because you're not spending them as the Constitution says that you are supposed to, with congressionally appropriated funds. We didn't sign up for that. Those kinds of bold blue state compact action, I think, really help, and we do it with voting as well, with Prop 50, but also protecting the voters, and getting our lawsuits ready to go, and sharpening our pencils for that when we want to keep National Guard troops away from our polls. And make sure that we have free and fair elections because the states administer the elections, not the federal government. And I think we do have a really good, massive legal front. We got a lot of good lawyers in the Democratic Party that are suing to keep our voting rights intact as much as possible with this Supreme Court. So I'd like to also encourage everybody to contact your governor. And tell them to maybe think about soft secession or think about some of these compacts. Contact your blue state attorney general and say, hey, can you make sure that local law enforcement, when ICE gets here, I heard somebody say every local law enforcement should pull ICE over and the military over and check everybody's IDs and run everybody's plates and run everybody's
Absolutely.
background, and then let them
Absolutely.
go and just do it over and over and over again so it becomes like mud for them to get around in the city. You can ask your attorney general or a police chief or commissioner to maybe do that. So those are the kinds of things that we would want to push our politicians to do, because Waj, like you said, pushing them makes a difference. That's why we elect Democrats, even if they're centrists, because we can push them left.
You
We
can't
can
push MAGA.
Yeah, like I said, you get a chair at the table with Dems. With MAGA, you get no damn table. The table has been destroyed and pooped on and and cut up for firewood. So
Wait, before I let you go, Allison, that was Allison, as Allison said very unsubtly, before we go, that was Allison saying, Waj, I'm tired of talking to you. But I'm not tired of
no,
talking
I'm
to
almost out
Allison.
of batteries.
Do you have 2 more minutes? I have to ask you about Trump being an FBI informant, Allison. This is a big piece of news. Trump, a man who vowed to fight the deep state, according to Mike Johnson as of last night, was a member of the deep state, Allison. And I'm saying thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you for being a member of the deep state. Thank you for being an FBI informant. Thank you for spending 15 years with Jeffrey Epstein partying and chasing girls to bring him down. I salute you. Can you please show your work? I want to give you an A plus plus on your homework. Oh, Donald Trump, the FBI informant, can you please release the Epstein files?
Yeah, or at least release the FBI approval for criminal informant files. But yeah, no, I think we said this at the top of the hour. I had put out on Blue Sky that means he worked closely with Robert Mueller, who was in charge of the FBI at the time. If he was an FBI informant, he worked for Mueller. Uh, so why all the hard feelings, bro? You guys were like teammates. And we could talk. Then he might have something to answer for why there was a sweetheart deal given to Jeffrey Epstein if he was part of that and he knew about it. Working for the deep state FBI, which
But
he
it's
is now.
also a hoax. But it's also a hoax.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
he was part of a hoax.
yeah. A deep state hoax with Mueller.
Yeah.
They were in
So
cahoots.
Donald Trump was an FBI informant for a deep state hoax about the Epstein files, which is a Democratic scam, which means that Donald Trump was working for both the deep state and the Democrats.
Yeah, yeah. Duh.
Can't make this shit up, folks. We could have had a competent black Indian female president, but America's
I should
self-destructive.
text Andy McCabe right now. He was at the FBI during that
Can
time.
you get Andy on? Can we just get Andy on for a simple question? Like, Andy, was Donald Trump an FBI informant? And let's see what he says, and then he could just be like, "No, thanks." Or actually, wouldn't it be better if he said, "What would be better?" Let's just think politically before I let you go, real quick. What would be more injurious to Donald Trump? if his base found out he was an FBI informant, or if they just found out this was a very pathetic, desperate lie by Mike Johnson.
Well, since those are the only two options, I guess what would be more injurious to him is that he's lying about it.
Okay. All
It's a
right.
toss-up, though, because they tend to not care if you prove a lie wrong. It would be impossible to get them to admit that it's a lie and be mad about it. You know what I mean?
It's folks. We've been saying for a while his two Achilles cankles are the economy and Epstein. And yesterday, those cankles are barely holding on, barely holding on. Lev Parnas and the evidence of our eyes and our ears. Lev says his sources, who have been proven very accurate, are saying he's not healthy. So I think the people around him, the Stephen Millers, as Allison said, the Russell Vaughts, often referred to as the co-presidents, shadow presidents. I think they know. I think JD Vance knows. I think Musk knows. I think Thiel knows. I think Putin knows. I think Xi knows. I think Modi knows. And I think they're trying to extract from this decaying, cankled husk every bit of grift and money and deregulation and pro-crypto legislation and authoritarian power they can before he goes. I think what we're witnessing right now is Project 2025 on steroids. What they assumed they had 4 years, I think they realized they only have 2 more months. And that's why I think things are going to get much, much worse. But we have the majority. We have the numbers. There's people out in DC right now. We're seeing blue states unite. We're seeing judges slap him down at the appellate level. We're seeing some Democrats who are centrist and timid finally getting a spine. We're seeing organizers rally. We're seeing overpass movements. We're seeing joyful warriors. We're seeing economic boycotts in these elections. As Allison keeps mentioning, Democrats are way overperforming. We need agility. We need a type of fighting spirit. We need people to stay together. And you also need rest, which is something that Alice and I, this is pot kettle masochist. We should also rest. Today was my day off. I'm actually not feeling well, but I'm like, can't, too much stupidity. I saw the Apocalypse Now thing. I'm like, a dude cannot abide. Dude
Yeah.
cannot abide. I'm like, who can I rely on? And I was so confident. I'm like, one text to Allison, she'll say yes, and she did. So thank you so much, Allison.
I'm like Mikey in the Life cereal commercial. Hey, I have one quick question for you, a tech question
Yeah,
before we go. Your books in the background, I can read them. They're the right way. Are you on an iPhone?
yeah, I'm on Samsung.
How do you make it so that your front-facing camera doesn't make your letters backwards?
I have no idea. That's a very good question. I have no idea. Does anyone know? I'm an English major.
Maybe I'll check the settings in you know what? I'll Google it. How about that?
Folks, that AG stands for Allison Gill. She's the one woman, Wonder Woman behind Mueller, She Wrote, and also the fantastic Daily Beans, the daily podcast, which condenses. It's a really great Cliff Notes version of all the chaos, but with some humor and snark. Like me, she is independent. There's no paywalls. She is dependent upon the kindness of strangers. We have kept no paywalls on our comments, on our contents. Anything that we release across all platforms is free because we're terrible capitalists, but we believe people should be informed during fascism because that's how you organize and mobilize the majority. And folks, if you can, please become a paid subscriber to Allison. At the very least, become a free subscriber. Give your money to her. And if there's a few dollars left over, I have 832 kids and 2 cats. I want to just let me feed like 2 of them. But if you don't have the money, that's fine. Just become a free subscriber. All the content's free anyway. Allison, shamelessly, please promote yourself. What did
That's
I
it.
miss?
You just shamelessly promoted me. Thank you so much. But yeah, Mueller She Wrote is .com is my Substack. I would love it if you would subscribe. It's free. If you like I said, like Wash said, all of my content is free. My podcasts and the Substack and everything. So if you do choose to become a paid subscriber, that's just a totally voluntary thing. It's like NPR, right? But I do appreciate you, and I really am glad that you reached out today because I was sitting there like I feel like I should be doing something. I feel like there's something
But I
not
feel
done.
bad too. I feel like I'm enabling like the worst tendencies of Allison, right? I'm like, but this was me literally exploiting what I knew was a mutual weakness. So I felt kind of guilty because I'm like, I shouldn't do this to Allison. I know she'll say yes. And she immediately said, okay, ready to go. So we
Yeah.
just rest for the rest of the night. Folks who joined us late, there's nearly 1,900 people. We broke down, it's called Trump's Apocalypse Now moment. We connected the dots, and I hope it was useful. But not only do we connect the dots to what's happening, and it's scary, folks. It is scary. But I hope we also gave you and Democrats who are listening some solutions, and people who are listening at home what to do and how to fight back. And I hope this was beneficial and useful. We're going to have this entire conversation up for those who joined in late on our Substacks in about an hour with transcripts. It's free. Strongly recommend listening. Folks, be kind. Be kind to each other. Be kind to yourselves. Rest. It's going to be a long walk, folks. It's going to be a long walk. Take care of yourselves. Be empathetic. Be kind. And don't be a fascist. Thank you, Allison.
Thanks.